I'm a big rooter for CNN, but that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing in that arena of like, this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized, a lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think you're doing with it?
CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And I think, you know, my show is evidence of that. We have lawmakers on from both parties. We'll have Elizabeth Warren on one night. We'll have Ted Cruz on another night. I think lawmakers from both parties should take questions, and you should push both of them.
Bill Maher just did it again. Kaitlan Collins, CNN's self-proclaimed voice of reason, just walked into the lion's den and, surprise, surprise, got absolutely shredded. Maher didn't just call out her wokeness and political bias. He dissected it piece by piece, leaving her scrambling for a comeback. It was brutal, it was hilarious, and honestly, it was long overdue. If you thought Maher was done taking down media hypocrisy, think again, because this one's a masterclass. It all started with this short clip right here.
On the freeze in federal funding, who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it.
Bill Maher has had enough of the left's meltdown over Karoline Leavitt. Ever since she stepped into the role of White House press secretary, the attacks have been relentless, from the View's cackling panel to the press corps frontmen, Jim Acosta and Kaitlan Collins. Their entire playbook? Corner her with gotcha questions and hope she fumbles. Case in point, that clip you just watched. Kaitlan asked about Trump's decision to fire a few prosecutors, a move completely within his authority. She knew it, we knew it, but she asked anyway, hoping Karoline would stumble. Spoiler alert, Karoline didn't. She hit back with a no-nonsense, common-sense answer. But Kaitlan? She couldn't let it go. Desperate to spring the trap, she doubled down, and that's when it all fell apart.
So they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And all that happened on Friday night. The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LLC versus the Customs, Bureau Protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House has wrestled.
So you see why Bill Maher would be upset. He just couldn't stand the hypocrisy from the left. So, he tore into them like a wrecking ball on a rampage. But before we get to that, here's Kaitlan Collins continuing things with her usual playbook, rapid-fire questions, loaded statements, and that smug gotcha tone. Classic move, confuse, corner, and conquer. But Karoline Leavitt? She saw it coming a mile away. Because underneath all the word salad, Kaitlan's entire argument boiled down to one thing: was it legal for Trump to fire DOJ prosecutors? And Leavitt didn't just answer, she demolished the narrative. It was legal. It is legal. It's called executive authority, and Trump exercised it. End of story. But here's where it gets funny. Kaitlan didn't know when to quit. She doubled down, rambling about norms, ethics, and the bigger picture, as if legal facts care about feelings. Meanwhile, Leavitt stood there, calm and composed, delivering a masterclass in how to wreck woke narratives with nothing but the truth.
Confident that if they bring lawsuits against you, those prosecutors who were fired, that they will succeed.
We will win in court.
And
yes.
Did he personally direct this, given they worked on the classified documents investigation and the election interference investigation?
This was a memo that went out by the Presidential Personnel Office, and the president is the leader of this White House, so yes.
Karoline Leavitt's calmness and sharp intellect are nothing short of impressive. While Kaitlan Collins fired off question after question, each one more convoluted than the last, Levitt never flinched. She didn't fall for the bait, didn't get tangled in the word games. Instead, she cut through the noise like a hot knife through butter, separating the chaff from the wheat and zeroing in on the core issue. No matter how Kaitlan tried to spin it, whether with moral grandstanding, legal gymnastics, or faux concern, Levitt kept her cool and delivered the same answer, just wrapped in different parcels. It was legal for Trump to fire the prosecutors, plain and simple. But here's the interesting part, Levitt didn't just answer the questions, she exposed the game. Kaitlan wasn't after clarity, she was fishing for a soundbite, and Levitt, sharp as ever, made sure the only soundbite worth airing was the truth. It was a masterclass in handling media bias with grace, wit, and unwavering confidence. But Maher had had it up to his neck. He felt that the young White House press secretary was being unfairly targeted, so he had to step in. First, he gave Kaitlan a taste of her own medicine by setting a trap for her and
I'm a big rooter for CNN, but that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing in that arena of like, this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized, a lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think you're doing?
CNN loves to brand itself as a neutral, unbiased news outlet, just the facts, no agenda. But that facade crumbles the moment you scratch the surface. In reality, the network leans left, and not just subtly, it's baked into the narratives they push, the guests they invite, and, of course, the questions they ask. They don't just report the news, they shape it, filter it, and spin it to fit a preferred storyline. Maher appears to know that very well but decides to catch Kaitlan in the trap that she had attempted to set for Karoline Leavitt. Now, watch her fall into Maher's trap. Kaitlan kicked things off with the usual PR spin, proudly claiming that CNN is a neutral network, a fair, balanced platform where voices from all sides, regardless of political affiliation or ideology, are welcome to air their views. To back it up, she threw out a couple of token examples. We've had Ted Cruz, we've had Elizabeth Warren, as if sprinkling in a few high-profile guests somehow proves ideological balance. But here's the problem, cherry-picking a couple of appearances doesn't erase the network's overwhelming left-leaning slant. It's like tossing a single green grape into a bowl of red ones and calling it a fruit salad. Sure, Cruz might get 5 minutes of airtime, but it's often framed with loaded questions, dismissive commentary, and a post-interview panel ready to fact-check anything that doesn't fit the narrative. Kaitlan's argument wasn't just weak, it was downright laughable. Because if CNN were truly neutral, she wouldn't need to name-drop rare conservative guests like their collector's items. Kaitlan had just fallen into Bill Maher's trap, now watch him obliterate her into smithereens.
Conservative in America, and I'm watching CNN, just for the straight middle of the road. That's what I hear for 15 minutes, it's great, and then Lonely Scott. It does look, I mean, and when you see the path, it does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View. It's like it's almost better to have nobody there, like MSNBC, than to have just
Bill Maher's right, token appearances aren't the hallmark of an unbiased outlet, they're the opposite. He didn't just call it out, he tore the argument to shreds. According to Maher, parading a conservative face every once in a blue moon is actually worse than not having one at all. At least when a panel is entirely left-leaning, viewers know what they are getting. But pretending to be neutral while subtly pushing an agenda? That's deception, plain and simple, and Maher didn't hold back. He blasted Kaitlan and CNN for pandering to the woke left while sidelining conservative voices. It's not about balance, it's about optics. They want the appearance of fairness without actually delivering it. Maher even pointed out how, when conservatives do appear, they're often treated like villains in a scripted drama, interrupted, misquoted, and fact-checked in real time. But here's the kicker, Maher argued that CNN's pretense of neutrality actually fuels division. It's not just dishonest, it's dangerous. If you're going to lean left, own it. Don't gaslight viewers into believing they're getting both sides when one side's MIC is always quieter. Now, with Bill Maher's initial intervention, you'd think Kaitlan and her woke crew would ease up on their attacks on Leavitt, but instead, they doubled the intensity. Here's one of them trying to corner Levitt.
According to an IG report from the Social Security Administration, there was $71 billion worth of fraud in one single fiscal year that we know about. And so that is a lot of fraud, Peter.
To be clear, that $71 billion was from 2015 to 2022, so it wasn't in just 1 year. And it was
$71 billion.
But it wasn't in 1 year, just over multiple years from 2015 to 2022.
So are you defending $71 billion in fraud, Peter? That's a lot of money. Why is the media so against cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the government? I don't get it.
I just want to ask a question.
We won't be deterred. We will not be deterred from people like you and the press.
Levitt just dropped a bombshell. The Trump administration uncovered a staggering $7 billion in fraud and was ready to crack down on it. But here's where things got messy. In what was probably a slip of the tongue, Levitt mentioned the fraud was discovered within a single fiscal year. That's all the woke press needed. They smelled blood and pounced, circling like vultures, desperate to turn a minor misstatement into their next gotcha moment. But Levitt? She didn't just dodge the trap, she flipped the entire script. Calm, composed, and sharp as ever, she fired back with a question that left the press squirming. You seriously trying to defend $7 billion in fraud committed against the American people? Silence. Awkward, uncomfortable silence. Because, of course, they weren't going to touch that one. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't about a verbal slip, it was about where the media's priorities really stood. Levitt exposed the game. They weren't interested in the fraud itself, only in protecting their narrative. It was a masterclass in how to turn media bias into self-inflicted damage. But like a pack of hyenas, the woke press wouldn't give up until they secured their pound of flesh, so they staged
something that wasn't true, which is you said that they have found before that they believe there have been tens of millions of people who were receiving money who are dead on the Social Security list. The same report that you referred to said that almost none of those individuals are receiving
Peter, did you watch the full clip of the interview that I did when I said that? And I said there are a lot of unanswered questions, and we suspect there could be tens of millions of people.
I'm saying the IG report.
So you just said what I said is not true. In fact, it was true. That's a suspicion that this administration has.
Another failed gotcha moment, a textbook example. The press, hungry for a soundbite, tried to catch Levitt in a lie, conveniently ignoring one crucial detail: they didn't have all the facts. Levitt had clearly stated that there was suspicion of fraud within the Social Security system, with the possibility that some people were quietly benefiting from the scheme. But, of course, the woke reporters heard what they wanted to hear, that Levitt had definitively claimed fraud was already proven. It's almost laughable. The woman literally said they were still investigating. But facts don't matter when the media smells a potential scandal. They didn't want clarity, they wanted a headline. And Levitt? She wasn't having it. She calmly corrected the record, pointing out that her words had been twisted beyond recognition. And here's the best part: while the press was busy spinning narratives, Levitt doubled down, asking the real question: why are you more focused on misrepresenting my words than on the possibility of fraud affecting hardworking Americans? Silence. Because when the facts don't fit the narrative, the outrage machine grinds to a halt. As expected, this ticked off Bill Maher, and he tore into Kaitlan Collins and her woke colleagues.
From Alabama. I'm from a very red state. I have a very conservative family, a lot of them who are Trump voters. They watch my show every night, and I think they know that they can trust me, that, you know, we call bullshit on every side, not just whatever leaning our audience may be, and I think that's something that people actually want more of.
Maher didn't just push back, he snapped. He made it crystal clear that coming from a deeply red state like Alabama had nothing to do with being unbiased. Geography doesn't determine neutrality, integrity does. Maher argued that it's not about where you're from but about your commitment to honest reporting, free from partisan spin. And Kaitlan's desperate attempt to use her roots as a shield? Laughable. As for her Republican family, Maher didn't mince words. They are watching CNN to support her, not because they believe for 1 second that CNN is unbiased. And honestly, who could blame them? Watching a family member succeed doesn't equal endorsing the network's slant. Maher hammered the point home: personal background doesn't cleanse bias in journalism. CNN's coverage speaks for itself: selective framing, loaded questions, and an unmistakable leftward tilt. Kaitlin's "I'm from Alabama" defense was nothing more than smoke and mirrors, and Maher blew right through it. Because when the conversation shifted from personal anecdotes to actual reporting patterns, it was game over. Kaitlin wasn't defending neutrality, she was defending the illusion of it. In the meantime, Karoline Leavitt had a field day tearing apart other woke reporters.
I also want to thank you tonight, Sean, for fact-checking James Carville for the lies that he pushed on your program last week. Unfortunately, James represents the deranged and out-of-touch Democrat Party who continue to deny the reality that this country loves Donald Trump. And in fact, President Trump is enjoying his highest approval rating from the American people than he ever has, despite the years of lies, smears, and witch hunts by the Democrat Party. The Harvard-Harris poll today is incredible. When you look issue by issue, the vast majority of the American people support what President Trump is doing.
Karoline Leavitt remains completely unfazed by the relentless attacks from legacy media. While they hurl accusations and spin narratives, she calmly fires back, delivering one brutal takedown after another. And her latest victim? None other than James Carville, the self-proclaimed political guru who has made it his personal mission to drag Trump's popularity through the mud. But Leavitt isn't buying what Carville's selling. In her estimation, he's not offering thoughtful analysis, he's running a full-blown smear campaign, grasping at straws to keep the anti-Trump narrative alive. Carville's tactics aren't about facts, they are about manufacturing outrage and feeding the echo chamber. And here's the thing, Leavitt isn't just pushing back, she's exposing the hypocrisy. While Carville rants about Trump's supposed flaws, he conveniently ignores the glaring failures on his own side. Leavitt calls it like it is: if Carville spent half as much time addressing real issues as he does obsessing over Trump, maybe his party wouldn't be drowning in its own contradictions. Once again, Leavitt proves why the media can't stand her. She doesn't just win arguments, she dismantles narratives and leaves her critics scrambling for cover. Meanwhile, woke reporters are being fired by their own media houses. One of them who recently suffered the loss of her program was Joy Reid, and the roast has gone on non-stop. Here's one from Megyn Kelly.
Big news! Tonight will be Joy Reid's final show on MSNBC. Single tear, white woman tears happening right here, Joy. She was officially fired over the weekend because she's a racist, horrible news anchor with no ratings. And that's really been the truth for a long time. MSNBC's under new management, and I guess they decided to come to grips with reality. The truth is, this is very sad news for us, as she's provided so much material over the years. I feel the way I felt when Brian Stelter got fired, but he came back, and you never know. I'm sure Joy Reid will wind up doing something where we will continue to get to respond to her absolutely insane POV.
Gradually, even the woke media outlets are waking up to reality. The public isn't buying their progressive propaganda anymore. Now, they are quietly purging the very people who championed it. Case in point, Joy Reid. Her takes have been some of the worst in the history of political commentary. Remember when she claimed that inflation was just a high-class problem while everyday Americans were drowning under skyrocketing grocery and gas prices? Or when she shamelessly compared concerned parents at school board meetings to insurrectionists, as if fighting for your child's education somehow made you a domestic threat. Cringe doesn't even begin to cover it. Now, with Reid reportedly on the chopping block at MSNBC, it feels like a breath of fresh air for Trump supporters, Leavitt, and anyone tired of her relentless, fact-free attacks. For years, Reid made it her mission to drag Trump's name through the mud, pushing narratives that often fell apart under the slightest scrutiny. Her axing doesn't just signal a shift at MSNBC, it's a win for common sense and a major blow to the woke media machine. Another journalist who felt the full, brutal force of the Trump-Leavitt effect is Jim Acosta of CNN.
And I just wanted to end today's show by thanking all of the wonderful people who work behind the scenes at this network. You may have seen some reports about me and the show. And after giving all of this some careful consideration and weighing an alternative time slot CNN offered me, I've decided to move on. I am grateful to CNN for the nearly 18 years I've spent here doing the news.
Jim Oster, the man who practically made a career out of dragging Trump's name through the mud, just took a major fall from grace after years of front and center daytime programming. CNN quietly shoved him into the late-night slot. Why? Simple. Everyone was tired of his woke, self-righteous nonsense, the endless grandstanding, the performative outrage, the look-at-me style of journalism. It had worn thin even for CNN's dwindling audience. For Oster, this wasn't just a schedule change, it was a humiliating demotion, a glaring signal that his brand of partisan theatrics had run its course. Unable to stomach the hit to his reputation, he did what any bruised ego would: he tendered his resignation. And honestly, who's surprised? Oster built his career not on reporting facts, but on pushing narratives, turning press briefings into personal soapboxes. But once the ratings dipped and the woke bubble started bursting, CNN had no choice but to cut its losses. His resignation wasn't just about pride, it was about survival, because without the Trump era to prop up his relevance, Jim Oster became exactly what he accused his critics of being: obsolete. Bill Maher isn't just calling out the woke media, he's tearing it apart brick by brick. And here's the kicker, it's actually working. The tides are turning and the resignations are starting to roll in. First it was Don Lemon, then Jim Acosta, and now whispers are swirling about who's next. Maybe the next domino to fall will be Kaitlan Collins. Who knows? It's not far fetched. She's already caught flack for her thinly veiled bias and softball interviews with left-leaning figures, all while treating conservatives like hostile witnesses. If CNN keeps bleeding viewers, and they are executives, might start wondering if Kaitlan's brand of journalism is worth the baggage. Maher's war on woke media isn't just about winning debates, it's about shifting the culture. People are tired of being lectured by self-righteous anchors pushing narratives instead of facts, and Maher is the unlikely general in this battle, exposing the hypocrisy. One brutal truth at a time: the woke media built their empire on arrogance, convinced they were untouchable, but now they are scrambling. Maher isn't just winning the argument, he's winning the war. And if Kaitlan's smart, she'll start updating her resume. And on this note, we draw the curtains on today's video. If you loved our hot take, then hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you in